Let's bring in Ryan Wilson, who's always working on a mock draft each and every week. The thing changes. I mean, you got the Miami Dolphins winning a couple games in a row now, so they no longer have the #1 pick. That would be the Cincinnati Bengals. And this week, a quarterback flip-flop at the top.
Yeah, it's back to Joe Burrow, Ohio guy going to Cincinnati, based primarily on what we saw Saturday in terms of what LSU did to Alabama, specifically Joe Burrow, but also Joe Burrow's body of work this season. He has been off the charts good. Out of nowhere, I keep saying it every week based on what he did last year. His completion percentage is up 21 points from a year ago. He's just been lights out. Incredibly fun to watch. Makes a ton of sense in Cincinnati, where I don't think Ryan Finley's the answer based on one game where he did not play very well. Chase Young there is number 2. Who knows if he plays again this year? It does not matter. Pete's pointed this out consistently. He's healthy if he doesn't play. That's great news for whoever drafts him. Andrew Thomas feels an obvious need along that offensive line. Daniel Jones has played well, but he fumbles the ball a lot. How about you protect him? And then at number 4, we see Tua fall, quote unquote, to the Dolphins. They still get their, franchise quarterback. I thought Tua played pretty well, all things considered, in that Alabama game versus LSU. 20 days removed from surgery. Yes, he completed barely 50% of his passes, but he made a lot of consistent throws under a lot of pressure. I like what I saw. Jerry Jeudy, the best receiver, route runner in this game. And then at number 9, the second best receiver, and it's a close one, with CeeDee Lamb, who had another monster game, this time against Iowa State. I love both these receivers, and it's going to be interesting to see which receiver ends up going first overall. Judy's a better route runner. CeeDee Lamb's a better yak guy right now.
It's going to be interesting to see how the quarterbacks go in the top 10, Pete, because we typically see teams trade up to take them. They're too worried about other teams leapfrogging them. But with Washington, you would assume that they've got their quarterback for the future in Dwayne Haskins. The Giants, same thing with Daniel Jones. However, again, if Miami wants to make sure they get the quarterback that they want, they'd look to trade up with either one of those two teams to ensure that they do get Tua Tagovailoa in this scenario. I do think his performance didn't necessarily change anything in my mind. He was playing on one leg by the end of that game. And as far as Joe Burrow, I think the hardest question you got to answer is, why is he so much better this year than last year? I mean, you heard Ryan mention 21 points as far as his completion percentage. Already twice as many touchdown passes as what he had a year ago. Is it the body, the people around him maturing, growing, that maturation process? Is it Joe Brady, the pass game coordinator? It's hard to put your finger on it. Either way, you can't overthink this one. It would be hard to pass him up, and especially when you look at past drafts. Kyler Murray, for example, who's looked phenomenal as a rookie. I do think Joe Burrow's going to win the Heisman, and this is going to be another guy that probably should go #1 overall.
Well, the offense is with the times now. I mean, the LSU offense over the years, remember they had Beckham and Landry and Ruben Randall all on the same team, and they didn't throw the football. Now they're with the times, and he's playing
to that.
That was
like 6 years ago.
And think about that. They didn't throw the football. Now they're playing to it, and he's comfortable in it. I would personally, if I'm at the top, I'm taking Burrow. He's my guy.
Who are the teams, in your opinion, that are in the market for a quarterback in 2020, Pete?
Well, I think the Bengals are first and foremost on that list. I think Miami's on that list. There aren't a lot. And we talk about it. Look, the Broncos, is he going to go back in? We'll have to see what he does with Drew Lock at the end of the year. The Bears, is he going to make his mistake on Trubisky? Trubisky looked good the other day.
For 3 drives.
Yeah, well, but he threw 3 touchdown passes. The Chargers, is Rivers going to come back and play? We don't know. The Titans, Ryan Tannehill's making a case for himself, and then you got the Steelers. We don't know what Ben Roethlisberger's doing, and we clearly have seen that Mason Rudolph's probably not the long-term answer.
He had a good game this past week.
He's okay.
Ryan, last week you had
defender.
3 quarterbacks taken in the first round. This week, 4. We know who went 1 and 2. How did you fill out that first round with QBs?
Well, one name Pete didn't have on that list that I'm sort of curious about is the Panthers. And I'll start from the bottom and work my way up. I had them taking Jordan Love, number 19. Cam Newton's done for the year. Kyle Allen actually has been pretty good. They drafted Will Grier in the 3rd round, but who knows if they love Will Grier. Jordan Love is probably a day 2 guy right now. He had a fantastic season last year, 32 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. This year has been a complete and utter nightmare. The best game he had before this BYU beatdown was in week 1 against Wake Forest, but he still made mistakes in that game with 3 interceptions. But he absolutely was fantastic against BYU. And I guarantee you NFL scouts and GMs were losing their mind watching him play at this level, because this is what they've been waiting to see. So that's a huge plus for him. If he can play this way for the rest of the season, maybe he sneaks into the first-round conversation. And then you move up a little bit to number 12 is my guy, Justin Herbert. He's not really my guy. I would not take him top 15. But the Chargers, and Pete mentioned this, Philip Rivers in the final year of his deal. What's he going to do? We have no idea. Justin Herbert is incredibly, insanely athletic. We've talked about that before with his arm strength. He's just not consistent. We talked about that before as well. But it's only going to take one team to fall in love with Justin Herbert to draft him inside the top 15. The Chargers need a quarterback if Philip Rivers doesn't come back. and it's not going to be Easton Stick, the guy out of North Dakota State. So maybe Justin Herbert is someone they target if he plays like he did the rest of the season, like he did 2 weeks ago against USC.
You know, he's also a guy that I think could use a little bit of development. You know, he's played a lot of football at the college football level, but I still think he's kind of raw in regards to how he plays the quarterback position. So sitting behind Phillip Rivers, I think it'd actually be useful for him, you know, whether it's a year or 2 years. Now, I know we never see that, especially when guys are taken in the first round, but that scenario could actually work for Justin Herbert. Jordan Love, based on how he's played this year, to Ryan's point, I have a hard time thinking he's going to sneak up in the first round. I don't think people are going to reach for him. He did have a great game this past week versus Fresno State. However, he might be one of those guys that either stays put or maybe graduates, goes somewhere to a better offense and opportunity where he's got more help out around him, then really puts on a show next year and ends up going in the 2021 draft. Maybe he's the next quarterback at Oklahoma or Ohio State. You know, not Ohio State, but whatever the school you want to talk about. We've seen those transfers come in before. Maybe that's the direction he ends up going.
You know, he said I didn't put the Panthers on there. The reason I didn't put the Panthers on there, because I think, just from information people talking to in Carolina, he's coming back. I think Cam Newton's coming back. I think he will.
He's coming back. He just might not be for the Panthers.
He'll be the quarterback next year in Carolina.
Okay. That's the last year on his deal.
He'll be the quarterback next year in Carolina. And then Kyle Allen is a good quality backup who could play if he had to and might be the guy.
He looks better and better.
He did. He looked good last week. He looked good in Green Bay.
Can you imagine if he keeps playing that well the rest of the season?
Then what?
Well, that's a lot of momentum. I don't know.
What are you trying to say, Brady?
I don't know, Pete. Maybe we should buy in on a quarterback just because he's not a first-round guy. Maybe we should buy in on him.
You can buy in on him. They're not buying in on him yet.
Brady's first-round quarterbacks differ from Ryan Wilson's. You have Jacob Eason in there instead of Jordan Love.
Yeah, and I think it just kind of speaks to where Jordan Love has been this season. He kind of regressed from the season ago. And a lot of that has to do with kind of what's out around him. But I actually put Easton ahead of Justin Herbert. I think when you look at his skill set and his game, it should translate better to the NFL game than what I've seen from Justin Herbert so far, at least in regards to throwing the football. Now, the difference is the mobility of Herbert. Herbert is a much better athlete. But again, there's some raw skills that he still needs to refine and work on, whereas Eason, he's got better touch, he's got good accuracy as far as throwing downfield, and he just needs more experience. This is really his first year starting at Washington. So whoever does draft him, they need to take that into consideration. He's probably not a guy who's going to be a day one starter, you know, given this being his first year starting in Washington and really the only experience he has being very limited during his time at Georgia.
Being a Pac-12 guy, I agree with you. I would take him over Herbert. I said this last week. I really want to like Herbert. I think it's everything I want in a quarterback. It just doesn't translate for me. I think you're right. I think Eason's going to be a better NFL quarterback.
Ryan, where do you have Jacob Eason right now? I know you don't have him going in the first round.
He's 4 or 5 range. I actually love that Brady put him above Justin Herbert. Kudos to you for that, Brady. And here's the thing. If you watch him play on those short and intermediate routes, he hits the receivers in the hands almost every time, gives them the best ability for the yards after catch. He does that better, almost better than anyone in college football. The issue is when he starts getting pressured, and we saw that in the second half of the Utah game. He played lights out the first half against a very good Utah defense. Second half got a little pressured, was a little pressed, made some mistakes, including a pick 6. But again, that's from lack of playing time. He started the 2017 season in Georgia, was benched for Fromm, didn't play last year, and now he's 10 games into his season in Washington. There's a lot to like about him. I do wonder if he comes back and he's not rushed into the field as an NFL player, if that would be better for him. But in terms of the tools, they're off the charts, and it's hard not to like him.
Ryan Wilson's brand new 2020 mock is up on CBSSports.com right now. He has a new one every single week.